comment that, especially in the conversation about the crisis of the times in which we live and the question of whether there's even going to be serious thinking in the academy and so forth. Uh, Part of what any book does, any so-called thinker, is people tend to see it as coming out of the thinker, and then you judge the book on how it applies to something somebody else says or to some part of reality. One of the great things about Dooyeweerd, it seems to me, is his recognition that it's the created reality that he's exploring. In other words, he's exploring something that's there, that is the structure of things, the processes of things. And insofar as we trust that and believe that as a creation order, then it opens up this whole question of normativity. In other words, at least in the English speaking world in the United States, norms in the sense of anything that's heteronymous, makes no sense. Everything is what individuals generate. We're all autonomous persons. So here's another guy, an autonomous person writing a book. So what do I think about him? Well, somebody else I agree with more. But in pointing to reality in the light of normativity, the very fact that we can make judgments about what is so highly unjust and destructive, let's say in the Trump administration, or that the idea of human autonomy, chaos in the end, if you just have autonomous beings without anything structuring it, means that it helps to illuminate reality. That is, we can say a whole lot in pointing to the reality that you can't get away from in carrying out destructive thought or destructive actions. And therefore, even though most people would not even think in the United States about there being a commons or a common trust or a political community that has its own character, that's not the way Americans think. The fact that that's the structure of reality, then you can look at all kinds of aspects, for example, of American political life and international relations, and it illumines why things are the way they are, because it's not owning up to that kind of character. So I think and I'm sure the book will help us with this in introducing Dooyeweerd. Part of what we're going to be conveying is not here. Dooyeweerd has lots of answers. He has his own thesis about everything, and we want to convince you that he's got the answers. No, join him in exploring reality and interpreting reality, and as he himself ventured, uh, raise critical questions. Where you see something, you get into a discussion about reality rather than a discussion between two different persons.
Yeah.
And I think that comes back to the relationship of theology and philosophy and so forth. It's not as if the disciplines, with the way people are now using them or using words, are the norm. That's the way we're carrying out a discussion. And the question is, what is the normative meaning of language, of thinking? Why do we even have disciplines? Blah, 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 blah. So I'm making a pitch ahead, and I haven't seen the English edition, and I have only begun to look at the Dutch version that Martin sent me so kindly. But I think that gives us, even in the worst of times, in the most critical conditions of failure, the light illuminates the darkness. And therefore, the light can help us see what needs to be done by reform or how the norms are being broken, even if other people don't even see that. Thank you.